Imagine waking up tomorrow to a silent world where every single car has vanished, leaving humanity with nothing but a wooden wheel and an open flame. Rebuilding the machine that defines modern civilization requires a surprising starting point. You must begin by digging in the dirt for clay. Before you can melt a single gram of iron, you need a furnace that can withstand 1200 degrees of heat. Standard river rocks will crack and explode under that intense pressure. You need fireclay, which must be mined from deep beneath the earth. This special clay allows you to bake bricks that line the walls of your blast furnace. Then you need fuel. Regular wood doesn't burn hot enough to separate iron from raw ore. You must dig coal, bake it in airtight ovens to remove impurities, and turn it into coke. Only then can you melt iron ore to cast a cylinder block. This solves the raw material. It doesn't solve the precision. A steam engine is forgiving because hot steam under pressure leaks slowly through gaps. An internal combustion engine relies on compressing air and fuel to high pressures before ignition. If the gap between the piston and the cylinder wall is wider than a human hair, the engine loses all power. Early blacksmiths had to grind pistons by hand using sand and oil for weeks. In 1775, John Wilkinson invented a boring machine that could cut hollow cylinders with perfect roundness. His machine was built to drill cannons, but James Watt adopted the design to build his first successful steam engine. This solves the cylinder. It doesn't solve the ignition. A steam engine runs by applying continuous heat to a boiler. An internal combustion engine needs a spark inside the metal cylinder at a precise millisecond. If the spark fires too early, the engine destroys itself. If it fires too late, the engine stalls. You need electricity to create a spark. That means drawing copper wire through dies to make it thin and flexible. It means finding rubber or glass to insulate the wire. It means building a magneto, which requires spinning magnets to generate a current. Robert Bosch perfected the magneto in 1897. This solves the spark. It doesn't solve the fuel. You cannot just throw coal into a cylinder. You need a liquid that vaporizes instantly. Early engines ran on coal gas, which required massive storage tanks. Then engineers turned to petroleum. In the 19th century, oil was refined into kerosene for lamps. Gasoline was seen as a dangerous, volatile byproduct and was thrown away. Engineers realized this waste product was the perfect fuel, but you cannot just pour it into the cylinder. You need to mix it with air in a ratio of 14 parts air to 1 part fuel. That requires a carburetor, which sprays gasoline through a tiny nozzle. Wilhelm Maybach invented the spray carburetor in 1893. This solves the fuel delivery. It doesn't solve the wheels. Metal wheels on stone roads shake a vehicle to pieces. Solid rubber wheels help, but they are too stiff at high speeds. John Boyd Dunlop invented the pneumatic tire in 1888 to make his son's tricycle ride smoother. A pneumatic tire is a pocket of compressed air wrapped in rubber, but raw rubber is sticky in summer and brittle in winter. Charles Goodyear spent years trying to stabilize rubber before accidentally dropping a mixture of sulfur and latex on a hot stove. The sulfur vulcanized the rubber, making it tough and elastic. This solved the ride. It created a geopolitical race. Rubber became the most contested resource on Earth. King Leopold of Belgium turned the Congo into a slave state to harvest wild rubber vines. Henry Ford tried to build an entire rubber city in the Amazon rainforest. Fordlandia failed because the rubber trees died of leaf blight. This is where most inventors would stop. Having a working engine, electric spark, carburetor, and rubber tires was a miracle. But a single custom vehicle did not change the world. A single custom car took months of labor by skilled mechanics. Each part had to be hand-filed to fit that specific vehicle. If a part broke, you had to hire a blacksmith to make a new one from scratch. Henry Ford realized the car would remain a luxury for the rich unless he changed the way it was built. He didn't invent the assembly line from thin air. He saw how meat-packing plants in Chicago moved carcasses along a line of hooks. He decided to reverse the process. In 1913, he installed the first moving assembly line at the Highland Park plant. The time to assemble a Model T dropped from 12 hours to 93 minutes. By 1927, his factories were producing a car every 15 seconds. The price fell to $260. This was the true birth of the modern automobile. Ford left the invention of the car to others. Instead, he focused on building them faster. His real innovation was the method of production. This solved the supply. It created a massive reliance on an infrastructure of scale. A car is useless without roads. In 1900, the United States had less than 10 miles of paved roads. To build concrete highways, you need asphalt refineries, rock crushers, cement mixers, and steamrollers. You need thousands of gas stations. You need a global oil supply chain. You need tankers, pipelines, drilling rigs, and refineries. A car is the final product of a massive industrial iceberg. You think the engine was the hard part, except that is wrong. If you have the blueprints of a 1980 engine, you still can't build it today without the tools to make the tools. To cut a steel gear to a tolerance of 1 micron, you need a high-precision lathe. To make that lathe, you need a slightly less precise lathe, which requires an older lathe before it. Every machine tool in a modern factory is the descendant of a machine built centuries ago. If you lose that chain of precision, You can't just restart at the end. You must walk the entire path again. Understanding how an engine works is easy. Maintaining the massive, interconnected machine of global manufacturing is the real challenge. Without the factory, the engine is just a heavy block of cold iron. So what do you think would be harder to rebuild, the engine or the factory that makes it?